guest this evening is a well-known concert photojournalist. She started out as a landscape photographer before being asked to shoot a show by the band Orgy. She has since built up a reputation of being one of the best photographers in the industry. She is currently working in Los Angeles, and her career is going from strength to strength. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Miss Erica Vincent. Erica.
Hey there. How are you?
Hey, I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Hanging in.
I can hear. Yes, that's right. I mean, I can hear the birds chirping in the background. That's always a nice reminder to me of like normalcy, of things that always happen. I saw a crow out in my parking lot today, and I just watched him kind of walk along, and I didn't go back into my place. I just kind of watched him do his thing because that just kind of made me I felt better watching that kind of thing. So let's start with, you're in Los Angeles. Alice is based in Los Angeles. I've had some other guests based in Los Angeles. How has life been for you in LA? Because I know you've lived other places, so you've been in LA for a bit now.
Been in LA for a couple of years now, and I love it down here. I have no regrets at packing up a trailer and just coming down here. It's been great. The people have been great. I came down here with some things in mind. It's changed since, but it's working out.
Okay. And I guess I probably should have backed up a little bit. Were you born in Portland, or was that just one of the places you were living? You were born in Portland.
I was born in Portland, but we never stayed in the same place for more than a year or two. So I've lived all over Washington and Oregon.
Oh, okay. All right. So folks that are out there watching right now, with Erica being a concert photojournalist, I came into that scene like around 2016-ish or so. And so that's where we kind of got to know each other. But as we were talking pre-show, some people you know fairly well in that media industry circle, and some people you just kind of know from seeing at shows. So some of this for me is really getting to know her better, and probably, you know, vice versa, I would think, because you can see what's going on besides my bald head.
More than my elbow hitting you.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So you were born in Portland, but like you said, you moved around between Oregon and Washington State. And so when you think back, I know for myself, the first band that got me into music of any kind where I was like, wow, what is this, was the band Kiss in 1979, because I'm freaking old. For you, do you remember bands or genres that really started to make you perk up a little bit? Oh, what's this?
That's kind of funny, because my real dad, he used to always listen to ABBA, Madonna, Bee Gees, and it's like, okay, whatever. My mom was a pop princess. And then my stepdad came around. He started bringing on Tom Petty, Joan Jett. I was like, what is this? And it really just piqued everything. My stepdad was a drummer, and that's where I really started getting into it. It's probably about three or four.
Okay.
There. So I've been working in the music industry since I was 13, actually, working at venues, PR, marketing, anything I could get my hands on. So.
Wow. So, okay. So everyone, again, when we start talking about people that are in the music media, we're all like uber fans, and we all have similar stories about, oh, I remember when I did this, or like I can talk to like when Mike's up here and we have similar, you know, bootleg tapes of something from some show from 1985. We're all just we're fans first and foremost before everything else came. And that's why we went down that path. So for you, getting involved at such an early age, was it something that sounds like your stepdad was probably supportive of, because he was already into the scene of, you know, playing drums and music, and or was it something that you had, you know, not a lot of support with?
Oh no, my parents would instantly drop me off. My real dad wasn't too thrilled about it, but whatever, he can deal with it. But my mom and stepdad, they loved it. They're like, go out. We don't care. We know that you're safe. I mean, one of the singers of the group that I worked with was a cop. So they're like, you're in good hands. We don't care. Go. I took my mom to one show, though, and that was the only time that she was kind of second guessing, because it was Moonspell and Cradle of Filth and Typo Negative. And it was at Crystal Ballroom in Portland, and 4 bounces, they're really bad. And she just saw me disappear in the pit, and I fell, cracked several ribs, cracked my skull, was bleeding. She's like, oh my God, she just disappeared. And then she sees me get up. She's like, oh, okay, she's fine. She's fine. That's the only time I can test it.
Okay. I've only been in that room once, and that was for, I want to say, Nightwish or somebody. And I was not used to that whole concept of that floor being a freaking sponge or whatever. Yeah, it's like, holy crap, what's going on here? This is crazy. It's like, yeah, being on a trampoline for sure.
Bounce with it, or your knees buckle and you go down. And that's what happened to me. Knees just buckled and down I went with the mosh pit.
Okay, so we're going to kind of bridge these things about your music background, and let's kind of talk about, when did photography start for you in general?
um, Probably not until 2012, because I was hiking a lot, and my dad saw me using a point and shoot just to kind of document what I was doing for friends. And he got me the first DSLR, a little Nikon D50-100, and he goes, "I want to see what you can do with a real camera," because he had been a photographer for 30, 40 years. Within 2 months, I was blowing his shots out of the water, and jealousy kind of arose, but oh well, it is what it is. I took off running with it with my picture of Mount St. Helens and Oneonta Gorge. Fun.
Okay, that's interesting. So your background's started in landscape photography, and I've seen some of your work, and it's tremendous. I mean, some of those shots are just gorgeous.
Thank you.
And no, thank you. It was awesome to look at. So, how did you move from landscape photography? How did that whole opportunity with Orgy first come about?
I was working as a nurse, and their drummer at the time, Bobby Amaro, hit me up, and he's like, "I love your landscape photography. We're playing a show in Southern Oregon. Can you come shoot us?" Well, I wasn't going to miss an opportunity to shoot my favorite band of 15 plus years at the time. So I skipped work, drove down, even though I'd never shot a show before, drove several hours, shot the show, drove back the same night, didn't sleep a wink, and worked a 15-hour day. But it went from there. I met Mike Savoya down there and Stephanie, and it was great. It was a whole new thing for me, and I was just watching Mike while I was doing it.
That's awesome. So was it? So your first time shooting a show, did it feel somewhat surreal being like in the pit, or however that situation was, shooting Orgy, or was it like you felt fairly comfortable already from the get go?
I'd worked in shows for so long, so being in the pit or backstage wasn't really a big deal. The only thing was, oh my God, this is Orgy. That's Jay Gordon up there. This is Bobby Amaro, Carlton Voss. I mean, all these people that I was very familiar with from all the previous work. That was the part that was surreal. Oh my God, these people are right here in front of me. But everything else was very comfortable. Little did I know they were going to be family to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. And so what year was that when you did that first shoot?
That was August 2015. So we're coming up on my 5-year mark in August.
Okay, all right. So would you say, because I've seen your work, and and folks out there, we're gonna be showing some of Erica's work in about a few minutes here, so you get a chance to see what we're talking about, because picture is worth 1,000 words and all that kind of thing. So we'll make sure that we see some of her work. You've shot probably up and down the West Coast, is my guess. Most of the venues. Have you also gone east? Have you gone to Europe at all? Where else have you shot?
I've gone to some parts of the East Coast. I've done Texas and all up and down the West Coast. I've done Canada. So still expanding out. I primarily stay on the West Coast because of work, but see what the future holds.
Okay. And so your background is a little bit different, like you just mentioned, that it's because you were already in the music scene before you were shooting bands. I found, because I wasn't like that, other than just being a fan, I wasn't working venues or anything like that, or working merch tables, anything of that nature. That a lot of the fans, that when they see us in the photo pit, they think like either one, it's really cool and they wish they could be that person, or there's a small segment, or like they're jealous or insecure, or whatever you want to call it, and they want you to get the hell out of the way, and they're kind of disparaging to you. Yeah. When you're in the photo pit, for your own experience, not for any other photographer out there, how do you prepare once you walk in there before 5 minutes or whatever the band comes on? So what do you kind of mentally do, or physically do with your gear and all that kind of thing?
I just make sure I have my settings to the good starting point that I like it at. But one big thing I always do is I go through and I talk to the crowd. I'm like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm going to be shooting for first 3 songs, or I'll be in and out throughout the set. If I'm in your way and it's a song that you really like, tap me on the shoulder. I'll move for you. But I meet a lot of really cool bands doing that. I mean, a lot of really cool people I've met just by doing that, just introducing myself. And at time, I'll talk to other people in the pit and see what's going on, who's around, who this new person is. Some basics.
Okay, yeah, that, I mean, it sounds familiar to me, that the more comfortable I got, at least, that there's certain fans I would always see at certain shows, and they may not remember my name, but they definitely recognize me, and oh, there's that Asian guy or whatever, the bald one, the one without the beard.
Bald one. Not an angry one.
And it's the same thing. I mean, even like I remember there were some fans that were talking to me at Baby Metal in October, and some of them didn't speak really good English because they're from Japan or wherever, and they recognized what I had on my shirt, and they're like, oh, you know, and just kind of talking to them, because as we were saying earlier, we're all fans of who's coming up. So, you know, we're having a good time and geeking out just as much as you are. So. Yeah, so it should be all kind of all for one kind of a deal, not a divisive thing on any level. So, all right. So I want to take a break right here so that we can have a chance to have the Alice folks roll the slideshow that is set to Alice's Ordinary World, and this is Erica Vincent's photography work. So let's go to that, please. That was awesome. Awesome seeing some memories of shows that I've been a part of, and definitely a lot of shows that I have not been a part of. And goodness, I saw one, I'm pretty sure it was from the former studio of Studio 7 with, I think, Cobra and the Lotus.
Yep.
And, yeah, and that was just like, just started bringing me back to all those memories of live concerts and everything else that we all dearly miss. And one thing I wanted to ask you about your work, which I would be remiss if I didn't, is what's some of the gear that you're using for when you're in the pit, when you're shooting?
When I'm in the pits, a Nikon D810 and D850, and I always have a 24 to 70 lens and a 70 to 200 lens. They're both 2.8s.
Okay, all right. And as we were kind of talking pre-show and also on social media, that at one of the shows, probably early on, I think it was Studio 7, and I was shooting, and then somebody bumped me with their elbow, and I thought for sure it was probably just, I turned around to see if there was a fan, and then I see this lady with camera gear, and it turns out it was Erica.
Me and my bony elbows, I have long reach, I'm tall, I'm lanky, and I just can't see it, unfortunately. Some people get hit in the head. I mean, I've hit Savannah in the head so many times. It's embarrassing. I always feel so terrible.
Oh, it's all good. I mean, for people that have been in the pit just as fans like I have, it's like, you're going to take bumps and things. It was just more surprising than anything else when I turned around. I was like, huh?
I've been knocked in the ribs so many times by other people. Some people just like purposely knock me. Like, hey, you can't be peeing on. All right, sorry.
So, and this might be really hard, but just like off the top of your head, what are some of your favorite memories of either shoots that you did, a concert, or I know you did studio stuff, or just things in the music world that, man, you just kind of cherish certain memories? What are some things that come to you off the top of your head?
Well, anytime I get to hang out with my boys at Moonspell, I mean, they've been family of mine for 20 years. Anytime I get to shoot Garbage, because that's an all-time favorite. They're phenomenal live. And hanging out with all the photogs up in Seattle. I mean, so many trips, not for the band, but so I could hang out with my crew up there. So I do miss that a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I know some of the band members of Alice are Garbage fans. I know some of the fans of Alice are also Garbage fans, because I see it in the chats when they're doing these shows every night. And I saw obviously some photos that you had during the slideshow. They're also from some of those shows. And what's something that you feel is I don't want to mansplain this, so I'm trying to find the right way to put this out there, so I don't get a bunch of people with pitchforks coming after me. Have you encountered any kind of issues being a female in this industry? And you can speak freely about that.
100%. I mean, they think that you're just fair game, you're easy. I've been groped so many times, but unfortunately it's something I'm used to being in the music scene. So my first reaction is I throw an elbow or I go straight for the throat. I mean, it's just reaction now, unfortunately. If I'm touched, or if I see another female that's being touched, I'll go straight after them. I have no issues with that.
And you shouldn't. I mean, and obviously it shouldn't be happening at all. But if it does, then you take matters into your own hands at that point, really. I mean, that's the way I kind of look at it. Yeah. And what about in general, just with other media? And I know for myself, for the most part, especially the people up here, they've been really, helpful and, gracious and all that kind of thing. But then I've heard about other cities where it's not quite that. It's much more competitive. People and other photographers, let's say, are not maybe as helpful as they might be in other cities. What have you found, like at least down in LA?
I haven't found too much competitive nature down here in Portland. It's definitely not the clique that we had up in Seattle, but there is still a small group of us. I mean, there's Jack Blue, Matt. I mean, there's a huge little group of us, and they're all just fantastic people, and we stick together and watch each other's backs. So we'll always help each other. I mean, I was hitting Jack Lou up the other day. I'm like, hey, I want to work on this. What would you suggest? He's like, oh, let's do this. And Heather Sabb. I mean, so many great people down here that are more than willing to help. But occasionally you'll find that one or two where you will get the cold shoulder from. But how it is.
Okay. All right. So sounds good though that the majority are, a good group of people down there working well and trying to help each other out. So that's nice to hear. Okay. And oh God, I just had a brain fart. I had such a good question. It sucks getting old. I swear it sucks. Maybe it'll come back to me in the next 4 minutes that I have with you. So obviously there's this huge question mark about everyone's future about when things go back to it won't be the normal that we knew pre-pandemic, but some level of it. What are you looking forward to be doing with your work? Like, what's the next step? You're just going to continue to do what you've been doing? Is there some kind of loftier goal that you have?
Well, I actually just bought some new gear so I could do more portraits and studios, because I've had so many bands hit me up over the last couple of years and they want band photos where this person wants brand new headshots or portraits, and I've had to turn them down because it's something I'm not very good at, or I just don't have the gear to do it. So I finally made the investment because Adorama had a huge sale and Matthew's Equipment had a huge sale because I went to a Jeremy Safer class, and I jumped on that. And so I'm just learning how to do that. So I have a couple things scheduled once all the writing protests are done for some photo shoots. And I'm pretty excited about that and learn.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some of the things from the Jeremy workshops. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of his work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. And I think that's the thing, at least for myself, and I'm sure you're the same way, is that if you know your own work, you recognize someone else's work when it's really good. I mean, I'm still a fan. I see people's work, even people that I know, like yourself, and I'll look at them and go, damn, look at that.
All the time. There's so many photographers I look at, I'm like, that lighting is perfect, the composition is perfect, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Safer is just one of those. He's found his niche and it's absolutely gorgeous and perfect, and people seek him out for that. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who are you writing and shooting for down there, or just in general?
Currently, it's High Wire Days and Amps and Green Screen, just whichever one wants me at the shows. Jack Lou works with me on High Wire Days with Ken Morton. And if Jack already has a show, then I'll hit up Amps and Green Screens and Damien, see if I can pick up the show for him. But occasionally it's Star to take him. But those are the two primary ones I'll go with, but a couple other freelance ones too.
Okay. And do you end up doing mainly photography? Do you also do reviews? Both?
I do both. You have to anymore in the world. Very few photographers get the privilege of just doing photos, and that's all we have to do at a show. Most of us, we have to do the reviewing part. We have to write about the shows, have to do interviews. I suck at, but I do them.
Well, and I know exactly what you just said. We have all those 3 different areas that we all have to work within, and depending what the assignment is, then that's what you do. We've got about a minute and a half left. So what I want to ask is, for those young people or just new people out there that want to get into the business of what you do, and I guess also what I do, what kind of advice or tips would you give them for a budding new photographer or photo journalist?
Don't be afraid to talk to the people that you look up to and admire as a photographer. A lot of times they will hit you up and they'll help you get into your first show or whatnot, or go out and shoot a local show if you want to do concerts. You have to start small, and that will help you big time learning lighting and where you want to be in a venue.
Okay, very sound advice. I would definitely add about making sure that you go about your business in the right ways, right from the get-go.
100%.
Yeah. You'll make friends, but you will also make enemies if you don't do things the right way. It's a small industry. Word gets around real quick. That's why I learned that just from watching other people too. About one of the first photographers, actually, he may have been the first photographer that ever introduced himself at a show, who I was kind of in awe of, was Mike Savoya. Because I knew his work from just being a fan. And here I am, I saw him, there's his bald head and his blue beard and his glasses. And I'm like, oh, that's that guy from KISW. And then he turned around to me. I had just done a Queensrÿche video interview, and he's like, hey man, I really loved your interview with Todd. I'm like, how do you even know who I am?
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and that was at Studio 7, I remember. And I thought, man, he is like, and he's always, and you know this, he's just like the greatest guy. He's always like that. He doesn't think of himself as being above anybody. He just is, he's a huge fan.
Oh, he's a big brother, just a nerdy big brother, and I love that guy so much. He's great. Him and Neil both, I just adore to death.
Here, here. So, hey, Erica, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was a pleasure getting to know you better and to get your work out there to everyone else that wasn't familiar with you. And please stay safe down there. And hopefully I'll see you on the other side of this, and we'll be shooting shows and everything else that we love to do.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Take care, you guys. Be safe.